Captain's log. Stardate 421362178436579.6. We've been without power for 4 days. It's a matter of desperation. We ate Mr. Sulu.
Captain, we've found the problem.
What?
Scotty got drunk and hit the off switch again.
Well, shit. Greetings and welcome to a very special collaboration. Tonight we will be talking about Star Trek and Star Wars. My partner on this venture is a man whose sci-fi knowledge is both impressive and frankly intimidating. It's rare that I feel like the amateur. Admiral Teag, I am so happy to be able to work with you on this.
Damn, that's generous. Thank you so much. May I say, I've always enjoyed your show, and I think you're a great Star Wars reviewer. And in our private conversations, we found out you know your Star Trek really well.
I try. Compared to you, like I said, I feel
There's
like
a cutoff
bumbling
point, right?
Amateur. I'm like the kid who gets set on fire in the engine room, standing next to Scotty.
Right.
So
to be fair, I'm up to date on both, more or less. And I guess we'll mention Ashoka, but I don't know that there's a whole lot to say about it. There's not enough thingness to it. It's not a thing yet. It's this coalescing mass of story or non-story.
Well, your Saving Star Trek stream has gotten, some attention on the interwebs. A small time reviewer named Doomcock actually picked you up as well.
Well, he didn't. Let's make this clear. Yes, I have been on Pop Culture Breakdown, and I'm a total unabashed fan of Doomcock. I do not have a wrench. I'm a paid sub. He's an inspiration to me. But these tweets out there associating me with being in his inner circle, I am flattered because he's so awesome. And when I was on Pop Culture Breakdown, he was awesome to me. But I've only been on but once. But it was because he said he enjoyed my Star Trek content, and you can hear it for yourself. It's in my community tab on my page. I was just to know that you've entertained such a great entertainer. That he said that he found it entertaining. And that when people started saying you shouldn't watch New Trek because Doomcock said no, it was maybe the first time he liked my tweets. I said, I have to watch this. I committed to do it. I have an obligation. And all of a sudden it looks like Doomcock likes this. So, he helps a lot of small creators. It's no different than if you shook Elvis's hand, but he's very kind and very generous, great host. And I know a lot of people love him. My fans do.
Yeah, it's like I said, in our circle, everybody knows who Doomcock is. It's not a,
AKA Overlord DVD for the channel name.
So let's take a look
who
we have out here with us as we get rolling into our discussion here. Disney Sheepherder, welcome.
Hell, you made it.
Starterpuss, right on.
Good to see you. Thank you for coming. Sci-Fi Mombi, hello. I do not know White Bear, but hey, Snortopus, you've met another of your
show, Whitey. Get to see him over on the Cannolis channel quite often.
We have 2 polar bears. This is gonna be a great stream. It's already. What would these guys do for Klondike Bar? Tom's tinkering. Hello.
Hello, Tom. Always good to see you out there, buddy. Ducka.
And Cajun Corey, Zach. Thank you.
Cajun Corey, Zach,
Ironside,
and Jacob Ironside. Yep. So some of our good friends of the channel out there, a good way to get things started. So welcome one and all. And I will try to stay on track with the chat, but I do derail because I'm juggling.
The chat
chainsaws.
I see, that's our combined chat. I can just look in your comments, or do I need to open up a window and go to my StreamYards, my YouTube channel?
No, and the ones that we're seeing in StreamYard, that's the combined comments.
That's fine then. I can keep up with
that.
Yeah,
so we are on both channels, by the way, for those of you.
Yeah,
out
I
there
see
who
that.
And
I
we
feel
also
good
do
enough
have
about this that I'm going to like both streams because I have a funny feeling they're both going to be really good. Please like and follow my friend Roman of the Empire. If you're from my channel, you have a chance tonight to assess what I think is a great creator. I go to him for a lot of my new Trek news, and I can tweet him and get an answer pretty damn quick. He knows his stuff. I'm sorry for my Star Wars stuff.
And we do have a poll going between which franchise is in worse shape, Star Trek or Star Wars? And Star Wars is currently ahead. And
it's going into.
I agree and disagree. I agree and disagree, and we'll get to the why of that as we
I'm
go
interested
on.
to see what happens. My poll is going to go live in a minute, but go on. And by the way, thanks. It's really just it's a pleasure.
So I'm just going to have some slides up. It's just Star Trek. It's not specific to what we're talking about, but I figure it's something more interesting to look at.
Let me ask you a question. And by the way, I love the Star Trek sounds that we've gone with. Let me ask you a question. Do you call it ASMR or do you pronounce it? Because I like to say ASMR, and a lot of people like that's wrong. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's funnier, so it's therefore correct.
I don't think I don't do either. As far as the sounds, what are we talking about? You lost me already. See?
Your background noise of the the background sounds
bridge sounds
of the Enterprise. It's called ASMR. I think it means autonomic synaptic muscle relaxation. It's supposed to help you go to sleep.
I already didn't know that.
If you Google Star Wars ASMR, you'll get some great atmospheric sounds too.
Oh, that's cool. No, I follow the Thing ambient sounds on YouTube, which is a pretty fun site. Let's go ahead and start diving in here. Who are watching? We're going to talk about Star Trek first, and then we'll roll in the Star Wars during the second half of
What's choice before? Both have never been better, right? That's choice 4.
They used to be
Trek, Star Wars, both equally bad. Hey, some people are going to say both have never been better. You know what? Some people, you have the right to troll. You have the right to troll my poll. Come on, it's not science. It's not a real election.
So
hello, Ray Lucard.
What's so we look at these franchises. So how do you define Star Trek? To you, what is Star Trek?
All right. It's funny you should ask that. I don't have anything written down, but off the top of my head.
I want these to be cold. It's a lot more honest if it's cold.
Star Trek's episodic. Okay, that's important to me. With an episode that ends making sense. You know what I mean? Or satisfyingly. You know what I mean? And we have several different ways that we've seen them successfully end Star Trek. It's versatile. It's about an hour long. I don't want 10-hour stories with 10-hour unfinished story threads spinning unattended to for 6 episodes that come back boomerang out of nowhere. That's some bullshit. It should be good enough for TV, right? For regular TV, not just the streaming shit. Because most streaming stuff is pretty bad, although it is by far the worst show on Paramount Plus. It should show a futuristic vision where people are more evolved and don't have gender hate because they're just a little bit more evolved than us. It's implied that they've taken a small step forward in evolution, that these are not the exact same species of human as us, and they developed from us, but they're not changed, but they're ready to start going down that path. You know what I mean? They're more reasonable. The average person is supposed to be calmer in Star Trek, but that's just part of their immersion. We go to planets, we mostly explore. We have to care about Starfleet. It's military. Star Trek's supposed to be fun.
Fun?
Yeah, it should usually be fun. The fun episodes offset some of the ones where they are really sad. Star Trek is a very versatile storytelling, but even if you say the Star Trek episode ending and I'm talking 66 to 05, the continuity before JJ, before the dark times, before JJ. We'll get around to him, but
we will.
What can I say? And hello, Cajun Casey, is it? Yes, Cajun Corey. Sorry, Admiral's a little dyslexic. I'm allergic to retinox. It should visualize science, right? This sonar in space is just absolute nonsense. And what a great episode this is, Balance of Terror, that we're seeing here. Their tech level, I think their tech level has to be above ours, right? If we could do something, they have to be able to do it. Like, for instance, in your franchise, the Babu Frick scene, Babu Frick's adorable, but what did you think of their ability not to be able to like back up 3PO the way we could? Right? Like, you don't have another droid body laying around there. It's jamming into the head for now.
Exactly.
Gronk droid, something. Just put him in there for now.
I mean,
Villains
the
really
tech
gone.
differences between the two shows are funny. Because in Star Wars, a lot of the tech I think is almost taken for granted just because it seems like it's older. Whereas Star Wars. Forgive me if I misspoke there. The
Right,
tech
okay.
in
I was
Star
confused
Wars
there for a moment.
is more taken for granted because it's been around longer. Star Trek, they don't take a lot of things for granted because you're a ship in space and
True.
space is trying to kill you.
Yeah, we don't do that in New Trek, which I'm also. It's this is kind of like an open joke. I am ironically the unironic leader of one of the biggest single New Trek watch parties on the internet, and I outright condemn the show. Don't get look at the view counts. You can see there's an appetite to be entertained by what happens on Star Trek. People don't want to watch Star Trek anymore, and so I guess now I get who talks first? I talk first. You talk first. It's my turn, right? We're gonna ask you a question.
Oh,
What is Star Wars?
what Star Wars was is easier to define than what Star Wars is now. What Star Wars was, and it's a real basic answer, is that it is a study in good and evil with the hero's journey and even the Greek morality plays. I mean, the arc of Vader, and I'm still talking in original in original Star Wars. Sorry, I'm gonna screw those terms up all night, so just forgive me for doing that. With you look at Vader's journey, you know that Vader was a Jedi. Obi-Wan tells you that, and you know he fell from grace, but you also know he had a redemption arc, so you have that morality in there. And for me, Star Wars is bigger. I don't like Star Wars in episodic format. I know The Mandalorian did well. I get that, but for me, it's meant to be on the big screen. It's meant to be a 2 hour. I don't prefer longer than 2 hour, a 2 hour story that may or may not have a sequel, which is fine. Now, what has Star Wars become? It has become a not so thinly veiled mirror of current society. That's not what people want to see. Where Star Trek is that, enlightened future of us, of the human species. Star Wars doesn't really ever pretend to be that. That's why they're very different in their
Right.
approach to science fiction, and that's great. I'm glad you wouldn't want them to be the same. It wouldn't be very much fun. But what Star Wars is now, like I said, it's not a lot of fun to watch because it's not
Is it
that
ever not
fantasy
fun to
realm.
watch? Is it ever not fun to watch? Can I answer my own question just really quickly? My definition is Star Wars is an Arthurian-like tale of a family that is broken by a war or tragedy. And we know these things; they're not implied. We know them, right? Or we find them out in a solid way that stays the same from one movie to the next, and that it's an Arthurian type tale. It's about fathers and sons, but more it's kind of like Temple of Doom in the sense that an ad hoc family is created where you have a Jedi and a younger apprentice, and that's Arthurian. The apprentice will one day lift up his father's sword as in Excalibur. If you watch Excalibur and you think Star Trek, and you're going to see similarities. Hello to the great PDB, one of the founding co-hosts of Saving Star Trek, one of my good friends, and he's a great warrior and a good friend.
So, do you feel that in modern Star Trek, do any of those elements you talked about still exist? I mean, it's obviously still episodic.
Well, I think that I said I wouldn't do this, but okay. I think this family of Ezra Bridger, or is it the family of Kanan and Hera? Is
No, no,
that what it is?
not Star Wars, but in Star Trek. The elements that you talked about in Star
Ooh, Star
the
Trek.
things that
Okay,
define
by the
Star
way,
Trek. But yeah, I know. Because
the last
we're
element of
gonna do
Star
a
Trek,
crossover.
the last element of
Those
Star Trek that I think I didn't mention I'm sorry, if you wanted to say something, please go ahead.
no. That's what I
Oh,
was
okay.
just asking. Like I said, the elements that you said define Trek, are they still there?
Okay. The last thing is no, they're not there, but I forgot I left out one piece. The crew must be mostly moral. And in Star Trek and I think Star Wars these days, we see the so-called heroes acting deeply immoral.
No, I am Star Trek, and I just want to touch on from my end. The crew of Enterprise, and I look to Kirk and that crew of Enterprise. I know we have the several different crews, but that's my Star Trek, as they say. Um, you understood them, you understood their motivations, and you understood the guys that they were facing when they're nose to nose with the Klingons, with the Romulans. Even then, morality in battle, which you do see at let's say at the end of Balance of Terror, Kirk doesn't hate his opponent. He sees him as someone like him. In Star Wars, and we'll delve into prequel territory. I mean, the fall of Anakin could have been, I think, a much better story than it was. I do think they tried to make him sympathetic, which that's the best falls when you have the hero. But for me, in the Clone Wars, I think Anakin was a much better character, and that's the Dave Filoni animated series. I think, and we can talk about Dave Filoni later on. Anakin was a much better character. I never liked him in the prequels. Little kid didn't care. I don't think that movie should have ever existed. That's neither here nor there. I didn't like him as a character.
I didn't think. I think if they would have gone right with Hayden Christensen from the start, would have been a better move. And it didn't work out
Yes,
well for
I
Jake
agree
Lloyd.
100%.
Yeah. I would say this: by the middle of Attack of the Clones, it's really good. And I would ask. Here's my Star Wars question, because this is a Star Wars theory I have. I believe that George Lucas went on the internet and people were trashing the movie, and he's like, "I'm George Lucas," and they're like, "No, you're not. You're THX 447." He's like, "That's fine. And people are like, "Fuck you. That movie was ass. I paid like $13 to see that piece of garbage. Paid $3 for a soda to go to, you know what I mean? Because it was like that long ago now." But I think that he got his face rubbed in it because he was surrounded by too many yes men to get through the production right. Even though in that famous video, his people are giving him tons of shit. They weren't able to be persuasive to him until he saw his own movie in that rough cut, and that's a very famous piece of video you can find here. Lucas reacts to the Phantom Menace. Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it.
My God.
Okay.
It. Here's some news for you. He's not wearing plaid. He's wearing a cable knit sweater, and he's he has like a theater in his house. You know what I mean? It's like a dinner theater size theater in his house because he's got a ranch, right? And you walk in, there's like, "Hey, how you doing? Good to see you. Hi." And it's like doing great until PDB says Stephen Ransom's idea of Anakin as an egotistical rock star because he knows he's the chosen one, and that's why he gets close with politicians for political favors. Anne Rice tries to pull that off, and that was that movie didn't work. But yeah,
ooh, that was a terrible movie.
The book
Was much better.
The book read well. Yeah, the book read well.
The book worked, yeah, the other not so much.
I would have to say this though, and with the George Lucas seeing Phantom Menace for the first time, so like they you hear the movie start because it's like boop boop boop, the old fashioned countdown. The camera goes off and comes back on again, and when it comes back on again, he's like freaked out and like he's like I may have gone a bit too far in a few places, and the camera goes off again. And when it comes back on, everyone's got a glass of wine in their hand, and you see his two of his producers and like one of his like editors, and they're like one of them's like, "You go from the death of a hero to comedy with Anakin to Last with Jar Jar to the rise of a new hero in 2 minutes and what are you thinking? And George looks back and he's like, now instead of thinking he's gone too far, like he's got this glass of wine in his hand and he's not drunk, but he's had a couple. He's like, I make a particular kind of movie, and I think what I've done here is I've made it too well, because what I've done is I've got the valid plot threads, but I've woven them too closely together. So what I've done is actually great. So what I'm going to do now is go back and I can't change it because it's they're cut together, but I can reduce its effects, which is great. And it's like, what are you talking about? His
Wow.
producer's like, it doesn't make sense. It's too much of a roller coaster ride, George. And he's like, and that's the end of it.
Oh my God, that's
You got to
hilarious.
see
I'm gonna have to
that.
find
You've
it.
got to see that. Yeah.
See what you
We
just
played it on my
described
channel.
is
We've transformed
that
that on
is
my
George
channel.
Lucas, dude. And you know,
That's
and
George
when
Lucas.
we talk about George Lucas, in that fashion, basically he was George Lucas untethered, without anybody to say
Right.
no who actually meant anything. You got it's a similar issue
Well, it meant something, but he
Star
was
Trek.
stonewalling them for a while, right? He stonewalls people between movies and all through Phantom Menace. And it's only because I was going to say this. Have you ever viewed Attack of the Clones? First 15 minutes is total damage control because it's a fan's wish list from the first movie. In the
Oh,
first 10 minutes, we dust off all the confusing clones, and Corday lives again to be on another ship in Pirates, but that's a different story. We get rid of Jar Jar. We tell them he has to stay home and do homework. And also,
yep.
with first time we see Anakin, it's like it's a different Anakin. It's like already like woof, woof, and woof. Those are three things off my mind that I was worried about because man was I confused. And then it's just the Emperor being sinister. And I honestly I feel that we have an OT level movie with Sith, but that's a personal feeling. I love that movie.
See, I don't like that either. I don't hear. I like the original 3 stories. Those sit well with me. Um, and like I said, I don't hate the prequels. I don't think they were necessary. That was George Lucas and ego is what the
Oh,
prequels were. And that's J.J. Abrams and New Star Trek and J.J. Abrams and Star Wars and Dave
yeah.
Filoni and Star Wars and Alex Kurtzman and Star Trek. All of these guys in the past have given us some really good stuff. Every one of them gave us good stuff when they were working under someone or for someone. Even Lucas, when he did Star Wars, was still under the close eye of management at that point. But all of these guys need a minder, not Kathleen Kennedy. She is not a good minder. But they all need their minder because when they have that minder, they give us Fringe, Lost to a degree, then that lost its way, but lost its way. Those words don't work, but you know what I mean. And Lucas with the original trilogy. And like I said, and Kurtzman, he and Abrams worked together on a lot of those series in the early 2000s that were good series. But as soon as they got their chance in the seat, they flew the plane into the side of a mountain. And that's where we are with these franchises by and large, is because the guys who are creative forces didn't have someone to tell them no when they had an over the top, just too much, or a just flat out Jar Jar legitimately bad idea.
I agree. And I see some people in the chat like Ray Lucard chiming in that people were keeping George from getting ridiculous. And that's true. Do you believe the rumor that his ex-wife did an editing pass on Revenge of the Sith? And what do you believe is the best prequel?
The best prequel. Oof. Actually,
To
I
me,
think
it's easily Ross.
I made the best prequel, and what that was Attack of the Clones with all of the
It's
Anakin
good.
parts cut out. And what we called that movie was Obi-Wan's Big Adventure. It was back in the days of DVD, and you could selectively put what scenes your DVD player was going to play. And for the longest time, my kids thought Obi-Wan's Big Adventure was a freaking cool movie, except for the end when this weird Anakin guy showed up. Because a lot of the big battle sequences are just, they're fun to watch. It's not fantastic cinema, but they're fun to watch. And then my daughter actually saw Attack of the Clones. She's like, Dad, what was this? I'm like, oh yeah, I just changed it. She's like, change it. What else did you change? And then I had to go through all the other things I edited through her childhood to make the experience better. That's fine. So of the original three movies, they all have super annoying parts. I do think Revenge of the Sith, probably scene for scene,
There's
is
no part in that movie I find deeply annoying, to be honest. I feel it flows
I
well. I
Anakin's
never cringe.
dialogue.
There's cringe in the other movie. I'm not bothered
Oh,
by it at
oh, it
all.
bothers
I
me
do think
greatly.
it's see. Here's the thing. I hate sand. There's so many worse
Mm,
lines in Star Wars now.
well,
There's
that's why you
nowhere
got to cut
near
that
as
out.
there's. I was born surrounded by water. Right? Like Book of Boba Fett. I mean, that was just like
Oh,
what? Like
oh, that
in
was
my
so
mind, I'm
bad.
like.
I know.
Yeah. Ooh, maybe I just want to say first of all, if I may, the PDB in the chat says the Star Wars galaxy is so old and well mapped. I doubt a first contact scenario would work in Star Wars. It would be a major
Oh,
ass pull to say some primitive planet evaded
yeah.
detection forever until today. And there's one problem in the uh in the Force Awakens. Did you notice that like the map was everything but a little piece chopped out? Like it was basically these are all the places Luke Skywalker is, and here's one small part of this small guy. No one looked there. If, let's say there's
No,
1,000 systems.
that's
Probe droids,
crap. It's
guys. They found him on Hoth. They found Hoth.
yeah, it's not good.
Their tech
It's
levels
not good.
below ours. Their tech levels below ours. It's ridiculous. Now let me ask you a question. If I may, I
Yeah,
Star Wars.
hit me. No,
I'm
please.
supposed to
Yeah,
be
yeah,
asking
yeah.
Star Wars.
Hit me back and
And then I
forth.
guess I guess I'm just gonna try to go between Star Wars and Star Trek, and then maybe how do you feel about the beginning of Return of the Jedi when you think about Book of Boba Fett? And can you watch the Return of the Jedi unaffected by Book of Boba Fett? Because I have a story when you're done. It's quick though. Go ahead.
Well, the short answer is yes, because I can just. They did ruin. I mean, they ruined Sarlacc, and that whole, the whole. Also, the limitation of Boba Fett as a character, both in Empire and in Jedi, was why Boba Fett was cool. So as long as I don't think too hard about Book of Boba Fett, then I'm fine. Although Jedi is my least favorite of the original trilogy. I think that's probably true for most people. Um, although
It's
it has
my
my favorite scene is also in Jedi.
yes, I'm gonna say
Uh,
it's sentimentally my
yeah.
favorite because the first movie I saw by myself and the first movie I saw several times.
I the Ewoks really, and I know they really wreck a lot of things for me. I don't like them. I hate that they're Ewoks. I wish they had gone with the original idea of the Wookiees. Of course,
George's
we didn't know that
arrogance
when we
was his
saw it.
undoing.
But my favorite scene from all of them is when Luke is getting zapped by Palpatine
Yes,
and he turns
yes.
to Vader, Father, and Vader, without saying a word, and he's just wearing the mask, turns, looks at Luke, turns and looks at the Emperor, and turns again, and then that's when he grabs him. And that's the impact of a non-verbal scene, and you get every emotion he is feeling when he picks the Emperor up and throws him down the shaft. It's incredible.
Wait, you don't like
My
the
favorite scene in
improvement?
all the movies.
You don't like the improvement with
No, no, that's what I was talking about. Lucas
You
damaged his
stop,
own.
George. He
He
was the
did.
one who started this. Yes.
Yeah, it started with George Lucas. He started the damage to the Star Wars franchise all on his own when he started tinkering with the movies and not just making technical improvements that by and large are transparent when you're watching the film. It's the add-ons that are the problem. The famous Han shot first scene, which changed what 3 or 4 different times. Um, Things like that, and then just hitting his
No, I
add-ons
believe
tend to
it's now
be
simultaneous, right?
yeah. Now it's simultaneous, which
Let
is
me
which
tell you
is
something. When
also
I first saw that fucking movie and
stupid.
Han Solo just flat out wastes Greedo on the implication he's going to steal his ship, I'm like, this guy's fucking cool.
Yeah,
Should I
pirate.
ask you a
It was
question?
great.
Let me ask you a question. True or false? Han Solo was only cool for a very few years where he dealt drugs, got the chick, and wasted people when he acted like Tony Montana. Then after the carbonite freezing, he's kind of a retard.
He mellowed too much.
And before the carbonite freezing, when he's very young in the movie Solo, fanfic movie Solo by John Kasdan, who John Kasdan's a lonely. No one talks to him on Twitter. Like you could go on there and like insult. I went on there and like I said, I was offended. I thought Solo was a piece of shit, and his reply was, "Well, you'll like the next one, mate." And my reply back was, "I wouldn't call it Solo, and I maybe wouldn't make it." And I guess at that point he muted me. But I mean, I thought I could talk to him in good faith.
Man,
yeah, you know what? The Emperor, just incredible. And we're looking at some of these Star Trek pictures from when Star Trek was Star Trek. And let me just say, by the way, we both have this one thing that we talked about. We stumbled across two things we have in common. We both arguably are named Roman. And we're both
it's true and it's weird. It's true and it's weird.
It's true. We found that out today during our prep session. And we're both adopted. And hey, Ranker Steve, welcome. Twilight franchise is in better position. He's probably right. Because Twilight didn't drift to something people hated. It just got like real confusing.
Oh my God,
it didn't start out in a lofty place. And it's nice to see my friend Ranker Steve, who's on Manorama. I'm going to put the Manorama link in the chat. Guys, you can go over to Rumble, and thank you to everyone watching on Rumble from my side. I appreciate it. And Ranker Steve is on Rumble. He has a show called Manorama that's great. Yeah, you know what? It's fun. It's just man helping man. And while I have the moment, I just want to say, no man has been as good a friend to me or as nice to me as Ranker Steve. Gives sound counsel, always real nice. Just one of the true gentlemen of the internet. But love to see him around.
Right on.
So I guess go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Quick question. What to you do you think about next big thing at this point? We might as well let's do the small part right now. Ahsoka, the next big thing. I mean, this thing, I watched the 3 episodes in a row, and I guess a couple of weeks because I don't think this next one's much longer. In about 2 or 3 more weeks, when there's storiness to it, I'll watch some more of it. But I had to tweet to get through it. It was incredibly slow. Thoughts? Just meta.
It's not well done. That's just the one-liner.
Would music save it?
Music would make it better. No, yeah, we chatted a little bit, and I've done my reviews on it, and the show has a real problem with dead space. Just between the dialogue.
Well, so let's talk about this one. There's dead space. As a musician with John Williams, Jerry Goldsmith, and who was the third
James
person we had spoken of? James Horner in mind, people like that, people who've scored some of the great movies. James Horner, and in his own right, Wrath of Khan and Commando. Just the amount of Commando is one movie we should probably talk about one day too.
I love Commando. But music fills in. It also builds. You have the emotion behind the scene. The words that are not spoken, you get via music. That's what it's there to convey. And the music in Ahsoka is it should be. It should be.
You believe that it was
music in Ahsoka, and when it's there, what was that? I'm sorry.
In the first 6 movies, do you believe it's a character?
Absolutely, I do.
You believe it's a character
and I would even say John Williams did do the other music, and God love him, he hung in there. And it's still there. Like I said, I have so many issues.
He wasn't as inspired by the movie he watched.
But in Ahsoka, the music could be good because it's the music that was from Clone Wars and Rebels, and I actually did enjoy. I loved Clone Wars. I thought Clone Wars was great, far better than any of the either prequel or sequel film stuff that we got.
I have to be honest. But I turned the sound off and put on the Rolling Stones after about 45 minutes of Ahsoka. It's so fucking terrible. But I digress. Go ahead.
No, because it's the dead space in Ahsoka, the dialogue in Ahsoka, and
music wouldn't hurt, and yet it's not really there. What music they have? You're saying you approve of?
I'm saying that it needs to be utilized better and more.
Ooh, so it's poorly applied.
Yeah, and they don't. They have a tool,
Now,
and they're not using the tool.
do you believe that it's like when they do apply it? What do you think of the strength of the symphony, not their skill, the depth of the orchestra? Does it sound like a chamber music quartet playing Star Wars isk music, or do they have a symphony this time? I couldn't tell. It was that bad.
I
Sometimes
think
it's just rock music. How do you like the rock song?
I hate the rock song. I hate that rock song so much,
Good.
and I
Yeah.
also hate
Yeah.
that scene. That scene
I hate
reminded
that
me
fucking
of
scene.
J.J. Abrams'
Yep.
beginning of New Trek when Jim Kirk is a kid and they're playing Sabotage. Except that,
Yep.
as much as I didn't like that scene, was a better scene than Sabine, who I don't like as a character. Also, you're
There was
giving me characters.
context in his world for the song, not a lot, but I predict you'll hear a modern pop song by the end of this year, probably a Lizzo song in Star Wars.
That's just mean spirited. I hope not.
If you had a choice between a Lizzo song and a recurrence episode with Lizzo, which do you pick?
Ooh, the song over the character, but none over both. Oh, Lizzo. So what would you say? And I think I suspect I know this, but I don't necessarily. Was the peak era for Star Trek?
I'm gonna say TOS. It's never as
That's
good
what
again. TNG is good. I didn't really like, before I forget, I didn't really give my my Star Wars thing about Return of the Jedi. When I watched the beginning, my thought was, if
Oh, yeah,
Blobba Fett could take that thing out in 1 minute, that means that if you threw Luke, Han, and Chewie in there, how fast would they kill that thing? So the only thing that changes if Jabba's plan works, right? If he throws them all in there, they're out of there in about 20 minutes. They're back at his palace in about an hour with an ugly makeover. They waste him. And then the movie continues exactly the same. Opinion?
Well, they don't have
His
armor.
plan sucks now. Jabba's an idiot.
Well,
now.
the armor is supposedly what saved him in the Sarlacc pit.
That in that book, it was a little different, but yeah, all right. I can accept.
I didn't do any of the books. This is going to sound terrible. The only Star Trek book I've ever read, actually, no, that's not true. I've read two. I read Shadows of the Empire, which I thought was very good, and I read the. God, sorry, the Star Wars book.
Okay,
I keep doing it. And I also read the one that was the zombie Star Wars book because I was really into zombies at the time. Death Troopers, yes.
There's a time where zombies could do no wrong. And remember when Star Wars was that flexible? And I think I was supposed to be answering a question. So what did I forget to tell you then? But do you remember your question?
So peak era Trek was TOS. And I agree with you on that.
And I think that after year 3, we get close to it a lot and better than a couple of the weaker peak episodes, because there's a few weak ones here and there and a few weak ones in season 3 of TOS, but still, never. And I thought that Picard could fill not really the chair, but at least the screen as well as Kirk could, but. Unless it's William Shatner playing James T. Kirk, something has been missing from Star Trek ever since. And Captain Kirk, it's just he's iconic. So that's
he's based on iconic writing as well. That's right. The nice
Horatio
thing about
Hornblower.
Horatio Hornblower.
You'll start to feel the Star Trekness. Yes.
Well, because they both. One of the things that they both end up with quite a bit is really good luck. Both Hornblower and Jim Kirk. And you could say they make their own luck, but a lot of times it is just good luck that gets them through, which is fine. My friend, Matt, the drummer, who is one of my associates, he says it's not luck. Kirk is blessed. And I'm like, okay, that's an interesting take, because he is just rediscovering TOS after a long time. So he's watching all of them all the time. So these are our conversations on the back patio of the Empire. Who's the better captain, Kirk or Picard? And I'm not trying to argue with him that Kirk is a better captain. Kirk is a better captain, but Picard does have qualities that Kirk doesn't, and they're very different people. And I also think trying to make an apples to apples comparison between the two crews is silly because they're not the same crew. You don't want the same crew. You want different crews. Every starship in the fleet in different eras has, different crew members. So that's the way it should be. What is
Right.
your favorite episode of all of Star Trek?
The Doomsday Machine.
Doomsday Machine?
Because it's Star Wars. It's basically Star Trek's treatment for It's a New Hope. It's a New Hope,
yes.
except that instead of being controlled by any intelligence, the planet-destroying weapon is on autopilot, and it does far, far more damage than either Death Star ever manages to do. The untold millions of planets we find it came from outside our galaxy, and then we see some of the greatest. Hey, Mark Harkness, it's so good to see you. Check the career of Stephen Decatur of the USS Enterprise. I will. But in the Doomsday Machine, we have this robot. We see a ship like the Enterprise, but broken. We see a captain like Kirk, but broken. We see actually what seems to be a usurpation of command that makes us very angry until you reflect on it for a long time and you start to say, what would Captain Kirk do if he beamed down McCoy and Spock and Uhura and Scotty and Chekhov and even, maybe he would beam Sulu down still, but, and they were all destroyed by the Planet Eater. Would Kirk break? Would Kirk break? I don't think that Kirk would break. I think he would be in the same shape as Decker. And then we give Decker drugs, which in Star Trek, when we give people drugs is always funny, to me at least. Especially when they do them by mistake. They give Decker like a belt, and by a belt I mean a whack or a hypo spray of some kind of super space speed before he can get it together enough. And he's like talking as he talks about the Doomsday Machine. He's being looked at like he's crazy by Kirk. He's like, it's pure anti-proton, absolutely pure. And when he says it, William Shatner's acting is fantastic, as is the guest star, the strongest guest star performance ever. Not the most notable, and Ricardo is very, 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 very strong. It's just that role and what was done in the Doomsday Machine, it was just a much, much more exciting story. What's your favorite Star Trek episode?
And I'm going to tell you it, and the why of it is a little funky though. It's The Devil in the Dark.
It's a great episode.
Not even that. It's not an amazing episode, but the reason that it's my personal favorite is because that's the first episode of Star Trek I ever saw with my father, my adopted father.
Well, everybody talks about how they've watched this show with their father. Was this a franchise only for men? I really thought it was the whole family. It's like I know a lot of women who love it too.
Well, not in our house, and of course that's a whole nother story for a whole nother time. But
I honestly heard that my entire family in Brooklyn was around the TV, like all generations. Like my grandfather, who was born in Cuba, his like non-vet son, other like hippie flower children, and they were all watching Star Trek, and they all loved it, and everybody enjoyed it.
And so, I mean, and that's as far as in my emotional response. That's why that's my favorite. From I think it's the best episode standpoint. It's the Balance of Terror. I love the Balance of Terror, especially now as an older man with a hair of a military career. That episode is so well done. Again, though, a lot of that does go back to Kirk. Both he has tactical skill, which is keen, but he also has a bit of good luck that gets him through that. But the relationships in that episode, both with the Romulan commander and his Centurion, is the mirror of Kirk and Spock and McCoy. You have those, and the dramas that play out between I forget what his name is. It was one of the Romulan who sent the message out because he wanted to tell their victory, and he basically blew their cover.
Right? Yeah, he broke radio silence, and
yes, and
in that episode,
friends like his.
Yeah, he knows the senators and stuff like that. That's I love that episode. It's a good one. The first one I remember seeing is the Cloudminders. But I watched it with my uncle, who's my godfather, and I watched many an episode of Star Trek with my dad. But I more watched Batman with my dad. I don't know why. Maybe he was just home a little earlier in New York, but we saw it on WPIX.
WPIX Channel 11. We used to watch it at the same time.
Well, it was a super station, and it was on
Yes.
all across America, and it wasn't adjusted for time, so we were all united. When you watch those shows on WPIX, you were watching it on East
Yeah.
Coast time. Everyone was watching it together. It wasn't staggered, and it was deeply enjoyable. And I miss when the Chicago station was a super station, WGN. Like we all got to
Channel
enjoy the
9,
Cub
I think.
games for free. Yeah, yeah. Hey, ask me
That's
my
hilarious,
sports
though.
question that I preloaded for us. Go ahead and ask that one quick before we go into anything more
Oh,
serious.
the Jets. How have the Jets been helping you get through this?
Well, it's funny you should ask me that, Roman. It's almost as though I asked you to ask me. But
Oddly
if I
enough.
could say, my problem with the thing that makes this so much easier for me is if anyone knows anything about football, the New York Jets are absolutely the worst team ever, and everything about the Jets is always backwards. For instance, I don't tell anyone what to do, and we don't give medical advice, we don't give legal advice. We're not being political here. Just the Jets are like, first of all, they're snake bitten. They have a horrible low lights reel that includes things like going face first into into a guy's butt, other terrible shit like that. Mistakes left and right. They're snake bitten. They're always great in the preseason. Like, next big thing is Jets will be good. Doesn't ever work out that way, and it's just it's unreal. I really would like to say that the Jets have been awesome for my understanding of Star Wars and Star Trek. As the Jets lose and do terrible things every year in an embarrassing way, so do the Jets and Star Wars and Star Trek. It's like the same thing. Preseason, next big thing, it's going to be great. Then it happens.
Yeah,
Then it
not so
happens.
much.
Like, everything's cool till things happen.
So,
Yeah.
what would
Next
you
big
say?
thing. Go ahead.
Let's see. On a black and white TV at age 10. Wow, that's a thing.
Wow. See, people have so many memories, and that's, by the way. You know what? I'll ask you a quick question. Uh, I said before, it's ironic that I am unironically leader of one of the biggest New Trek watch parties, where I think the highest mark I've ever given any episode was a 2. And that was their standout from last season. But they had one Star Trek worthy concept, and it wasn't that annoying. Spock was the smartest person. That got it to a 2. We've had -7 and -8. I
Ooh,
believe
you
negative
actually go
3,000.
negative on those.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, we go negative. We had negative 275 stars for the season Picard season 3. We had, every show has kind of made people. It's the Star Trek show. Not only is it divisive, it's kind of hard on the crew. It's hard to watch. The show's obnoxious. It's poorly made. And you watch enough Star Trek. I don't know if you've noticed this though. In successive seasons, and successive episodes of New Trek, we were seeing the payoff before the setup in the order of the show. Something would happen, and in the next scene, Pike would be like, "You know what's going to happen when this happens? This." And I'm like, "How incompetent were you?"
So that leads me into where I want to go with this next one. When do
Sure.
you think Star Trek started to slide? When
Last,
what? And it could be any.
well,
It could be any. Honestly, when did you?
chronologically, or the thing that really starts to kill it.
What? Yeah. What was? I mean, what was the first poison dumped in the well?
Deep Space Nine. Sorry. I know it's everybody's favorite Star Trek show. Everybody says it's the best Star Trek show. But Deep Space Nine, quite honestly, I do like it. There's some good Star Trek, but I think it's more than half bad, more than half the time. There's a complex thing I have to do when I watch Deep Space Nine. If I see Garrick the Terror, I'm hanging with the show because he's interesting. If I see Rom, I'm going to stick with it a little longer. If Cisco's too moody or self-important, I'm dipping out. If I see the Doctor, their Doctor was my favorite Doctor for a little while. I do think he has some amazing performances. But Deep Space Nine is where things start to go really wrong, and I'll give you some examples. For instance, we see a lot of episodes that they don't care if they make sense. They don't go to planets and mostly explore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Uh,
What?
they don't.
Explore?
And if I want to see a show about magic and fathers and sons, isn't that Star Wars? So they're mixing them together.
Yeah.
And even though, like, guys, I know that a lot of you love DS9, and I really do apologize to those of you who do. I'm not dunking on it. I'm going to get that taken care of. But I had a much more pleasant time getting through watching Voyager, as flawed as that can be. There are some Voyager episodes that go off without a hitch. There's not that many Voyager episodes that go off without a hitch. And I've never seen a Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode that was trending bad and recovered. I've seen Enterprise trend bad and get its footing like in the second segment. I've seen that happen, and I think that Enterprise had higher highs than Deep Space Nine did to me. But I love Star Trek Enterprise, warts and all. They're warts.
Oh, not the least of which is the final episode, which is not good.
That final episode, to me, their final episode is Terra Prime, and I would also say this. Deep Space Nine establishes Section 31, something everyone hates.
Yes.
Carol Marcus. Yes. Wait. Say her name. Say her name to me. Feed it to me. Feed me the line.
Carol Marcus.
Yes. Bones, use a surgeon of all people should know the danger of opening up old wounds.
Opening an old wound. You read my mind.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Why, Spock? Trying to tell me something?
Happy birthday.
Let's check our polls. We're about halfway through.
Let's see. Where are we hanging on the poll? We are.
You tell me how your community feels, and then I'll tell you how my community feels. You go first.
For the
two
question
separate
of
polls, but they're identical.
Which franchise is in the worst shape? Star Trek at 21% and Star Wars at a staggering 79%.
On my show, it's closer, but the biggest vote getter, I'm going to go in order of votes. Both equally bad is 40%. At 35% is Star Trek is in worse shape. And 25% believe that Star Wars is in worse shape. I'm going to, in about 1 of your minutes, end the poll, and I'm going to introduce another poll about. I'm still formulating it, but I'm going to introduce another poll in a few minutes. But I think go ahead and interact and vote, guys. And hey, Jim's Landscape and John Cipolla and all my other friends over there. I'm sorry I can't shout people out as much tonight, but I want to get the conversation in with Roman, who has we both have kind of time crunches, but. We do both hope that you're headed home safely after a really good Labor Day wherever you've been. And, hats off to all our fans in America and around the world. Hit those like and follow buttons for Roman of the Empire. And if you are a fan of my show, I'm going to drop Roman of the Empire's link into the chat now so you can see it. And, you could consider subbing him. I think you'll enjoy it. You're getting a good example of it tonight. Are we in the middle of the question, or do we need to move on to the next question?
Let's see.
I have a question for you. Unless we have something.
We were at the slide, so we can move on from slide. We were at the slide.
Okay.
And,
I will say this: the other death blow to all of Star Trek kind of continuity is the movie Generations is so fucking flawed that
I hate that movie so much.
PDB in the chat will back me up on this one. That the flaws in the Nexus. So we see Whoopi Goldberg and Malcolm McDowell go into the Nexus in a ship, and then we see the Nexus collide with the ship like 100 years later. They are Guinan and Soran are rescued by Kirk and the crew of the Enterprise B, which is damaged, and we lose Kirk. They think he's dead, but he's in the Nexus. Then we have a TNG story that's. Whatever, it's a story. Then Picard ends up in the Nexus, and he says he's got everything he wants, and he doesn't know why he has it. He has children, a family, the life. It's sort of like based on what Kirk says, my life that never was. You know what I mean? Like sort of regretfully, and but he's got it all. And then all of a sudden, Guinan's just there, and he's like, "You're here," and she's like, "I'm an echo," and he's like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "You're in the Nexus. You can't leave." And he's like, "Huh? I like it being here." And he's like, "Why don't you leave?" And she goes, "Because I'm there." And he goes, "Well, how does one get here?" And she goes, "Well, not on a ship," which 2 people have entered by at this point in the movie. So at this point, I had face palming in the movies and pinching my eyes, and I'm like, they're fucking this up. John Luke is a fucking idiot. And why is Guinan, like being such a vague and like talking in bullshit riddles? And then she says that you're in the infinitely upgradable dream machine. It gives you what you want. It makes you have what you want, and what you want, you see, and you can't escape. And then she says, "Oh yeah, but you can escape." Right? So after
but you can't escape.
she says a bunch of things and buys it back really quick. It's like when you watch Magic Johnson tell a joke, he tells a joke and then quickly buys it back. But seriously,
Guinan was easily my least favorite. Well, Wesley Crusher.
She wasn't as bad at the time, but yes, now.
So
and
yeah,
PDB, please put the Fictron link, and I'm putting the PDB link in the chat for everybody. And I'll be putting your link in there too in a moment.
Yeah, and I just dropped you on mine. So what was you were going to ask me? What were you going to ask me?
Between Star Wars and Star Trek, what's the bigger canvas to paint on as a writer? And thanks for everyone who's hanging with me on Rumble too.
That is
what a great question. Star Trek moment.
I would say, and I would Star Trek, I think, has more unlimited possibilities because they are still explorers. Star Wars,
I agree,
is essentially a contained galaxy minus the bullshit jerk off stuff in the space whales and Ahsoka. It isn't established. This is the galaxy. It's basically ruled by the Empire, the Outer Rim, and all the stuff. Star Trek, on the other hand, like I said, they're still out there. They're still finding new things. No one's finding anything new, really, in Star Wars. They're finding old stuff, which is why both Star Trek and Star Wars drives me crazy, though, because no one wants to move into the future. Everybody wants to live in the past. That drives me out of my mind. But like I said, Star Trek as a canvas is unlimited because they have our galaxy and galaxies to explore, whereas Star Wars is the galaxy, whatever that galaxy is. So,
all right. Well, since we agree, let's move on.
I'm sorry. I would have fought you, but it makes too much sense.
You're absolutely right. Took the words right out of my mouth. So yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. And just can I quickly, while I'm thinking of this one, welcome everybody who's in my chat. Mark Harkness, Sci-Fi Mommy, Lochtanan. Thank you, Lochtanan. I hope I'm saying that right. If not, spell it out phonetically. Lochtanan says the movie, just my brain quickly accepted and went on. I think maybe he's talking about they do a good job of getting one over on us, I think, in generations in the movie theater for most people. But may I ask you this? How would you fix Star Trek? How much money do you need, and how do you do it?
How much money? I don't quite know. Because the problem.
How do you do it? A movie or streaming or a TV show?
You would need to do a movie, but it would need to encompass elements because they created their own problem with the Kelvin universe. The Kelvin universe is the biggest problem in I'm sorry. Are we talking Star Trek or Star Wars again?
Trek.
Okay, thank you. My brain gets confused. So to fix Star Trek,
don't worry about it. I have written notes.
I'm doing this. I hate the Kelvin universe.
Notes are a good thing.
So
yes,
how do you fix all that? The easiest way for me to fix it. Actually, no. I'm gonna reverse course on this. I'm gonna say episodic, but I'm gonna say episodic in a post next gen world or next gen timeline. You have a lot to build there. I don't want another Enterprise. I don't want a crew that has any ties to old Star Trek. I want, like I said, moving forward stories. If we move forward into
Yep.
next
Where
gen,
do we start?
from
Like what?
just after
What
that,
era?
it could be
Okay.
the
Yeah.
same
You
era
no,
as
you answered the
Picard.
question. Yeah. Okay.
You know,
Yeah. All right. Okay.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go earlier than that because that's where we live now. We live in the past. The Picard era, or not Picard. When I say Picard, I don't mean Picard. I mean Star Trek Next Gen. In this timeline, Picard doesn't that none of that happened. Not yet, anyway. So we're not going that far in the future where Spock travels back in time and screws everything up. We're staying in the Next Gen era, post Enterprise missions. As far as we know, it can still be out there doing shit. It's just that we don't necessarily need to see them or interact with them. You're on another ship. I would also go with something smaller, a bit more intimate. I don't
I
want the
agree.
Galaxy class
Smaller. I
Star Trek
like
with families and all that stuff. I want a
size of the
smaller,
Voyager.
which was an awful lot like original Enterprise. As far Voyager was actually smaller than Enterprise. That you're right. That was as far
Yeah.
as size
The
of
crew
yeah,
complement. I
something
believe
like
it's
that is works.
148. They kept saying.
But I want them exploring again. I want that style of mission. I don't need them lost in the Gamma Quadrant. That's ridiculous. But it can be or you can have, there are so many possibilities with this. The resurrection of tensions with the Romulan Empire. All of these things can be out there, but you just have so many stories you could tell. But I would go back to a more simple design of Star Trek because you don't need to change everything like a DS9 did. And you certainly don't need to go back in time to do it. You don't need to tell the stories that affects or would affect the future. Jim Kirk didn't do these things. That Captain Pike didn't do these things. Spock doing a musical number makes me want to blow my brains all over the wall. I hate what
Uh,
Stop with the legacy characters. Stop dumping on the legacy stuff and move forward with another ship having adventures. It just doesn't seem like it's that hard to do.
that
Um,
was an
but
excellent
but apparently it
answer.
is.
By the way, can I just add this? What would you think of this as the very, very beginning of the movie? Armin Shimmerman as Quark. Colm Meaney as Commander O'Brien. He's in charge of DS9 now, but he's still real hands-on, right? And what we see is we see the end of a new Trek thing we've seen, right? Something terrible, right? Like Spock singing, and the screen goes black, right? And all of a sudden, out of the black, we see a square open up, and the camera shoots out from the worm's eye view, and we're in Deep Space Nine, and it's O'Brien, played by Colm Meaney, and he goes, "Damn it, Quark! I'm sick and tired of these Cardassian pornography programs messing up the mainframe. There's been 3 people hurt," and he's like, but Commander, I'm just a businessman. And with that, Colm Meaney throws this. He's like, "I've got it isolated on this hard drive," and he throws it in the corner, pulls out his phaser, and vaporizes it. And Quark starts yelling about, "You owe me money," and then we start the theme song, and we go to our new ship. Do you approve of that?
And we're a new Trek. And then we're a new Trek. You eliminated it all in one phaser
Just
shot. I love
deleted
it.
all of it. It
I
was a
love it.
bad Cardassian holiday
Gone.
program. By the way, I have a
Oh,
now I have a Star Wars question for you. Very serious one. You ready?
yes.
Somehow Palpatine has returned. What happens when he's falling down the shaft of the Death Star 2? From the moment he's released, what happens?
Now, why? How does he? I don't know. He gets vaporized. I mean,
I
unless
don't
he
think
is
he does.
force
Well, obviously
essence,
he doesn't.
he is force essence and moves into one of the clone bodies. That is
They've changed the
horrible.
story to that now. That was not their story when Tross dropped. You remember they have changed that, right?
I don't remember. I remember them. That's what
My
I
source is
remember that.
EFAP.
As far as my brain goes, that was. But I still don't buy that. I think that's crap. I think that we need a clever way to do this plot device that doesn't really work.
And look, here's a plot device that did work. The Genesis coffin. I'm sorry, proceed.
It actually did work. This actually
And it
worked.
did.
And because they had separated Spock's soul, essentially, his being from his body. So you had things to put back together. Whereas if
And
you
he's on a
vaporize
magic
everything,
like planet,
yeah, I mean,
right?
I like Search for Spock. I mean, that's is it.
I love Search for Spock. It's still peak
I'm
Trek at
trying to
that
think if I
point. The
like it better
Genesis
than
trilogy
the whale one, and I think I do. There's a lot of
tied.
emotion in Search for Spock. Um,
There's a lot of Vulcan mysticism in it, and they lean heavily into the show. It's the one that has the most showness in it until you get to Star Trek V, which is like one of those crazier season 3 episodes.
Oof, yeah, that's no lie. I would say that actually one of the best scenes in all of the I'm just calling the three Star Trek movies the the Wrath of Khan story arc
Genesis
is
trilogy is what the fans call them.
when Mark Leonard appears and he
Yeah,
and Kirk have the mind meld scene together.
it's
Oh,
incredible.
oh my
Uh,
God. Shatner in that scene, Shatner can act. And his
yes,
emotional response of having to relive that again mentally, it was just heartbreaking to see, his friend who he's still reeling from his death. He has to put that in the forefront of his mind again. And in the story of loyalty and friendship, it's like I said, it is quite the emotional story. Especially for people who have lost someone in the military, or people who've lost someone in general. That is a quite a thing to have to relive. Um,
okay.
I
Yeah.
could tell a brief story which relates to this. When I was out, we lost a helicopter crew in 2007. Easily the
May they
worst
rest in peace. I'm
experience
sorry for your
of my
comrades.
of my life. But when we got, you go through all the business at sea, recovering the aircraft or the parts of the aircraft that you can. But then there's the weeks that follow when you're going through um, all the questioning about procedures and did everybody do everything right and all of that. So you get to relive that day several times immediately after that day. Of course, you never forget it, but it's right there in your face again, and people are questioning what you did, and it's so that scene has that kind. Like I said, it's a very heavy emotional impact, and for me, that's what I think of when I watch that scene.
Um, I just want to say hi to my friend Gamer1745. His link's in my chat. I dropped it in the private chat if you want to share it with your subscribers as well. He's a great and
Oh,
mighty
yeah.
YouTuber. He plays World War II strategy games, and what he does is he's extremely smart, and he teaches as he goes. He sort of gives you a lot of information about what's going on and the conflict that's involved, and I was very, very flattered that he was willing to stream with me, as I am with you, my friend. But he was a great warrior, and he is a great warrior and a mighty friend. Is Gamer1745. His link is in our chat, my chat. Please, if you subscribe to Saving Star Trek, you'll enjoy Gamer1745. He's
Right on.
enjoyable, and you'll learn a lot. Sorry, just wanted to get that out there, and I'll be doing some more shout outs too. I'm sorry.
Yep.
The
No,
Star
no,
Trek
definitely.
chat culture and the Star Wars chat culture are slightly different, so I really just I have to do it a little more than a Star Wars person, and I would. So I guess I got a question for you. Agree or disagree? Star Trek is when friendship, loyalty, and sacrifice meet at the final frontier.
That's an excellent. That's an excellent way of putting it. I completely agree. The
Let me
relationships.
go
This
ahead.
is my opinion. The relationships in Star Trek are much tighter than the relationships feel in Star Wars. What do you think of that?
Say it again while I'm thinking of it, because I'm also multitasking.
Oh, no, I got you. The relationships in Star Trek, and again, when I'm talking Star Trek, my brain is going immediately to TOS. Those
Yes.
relationships feel much closer and tighter than the relationships do in Star Wars.
At least at this point, yes. By the end of the region OT, I felt as confident about like Han Solo and Luke Skywalker and Leia and Chewie, or and the droids, as I did about Spock, Kirk, Spock, and Bones.
I always thought the relationship between Kirk and Spock is such a unique thing because Spock is Spock. You know, his semi emotional detachment, um, where Bones is really all emotion. Um, but and even Scotty, to his credit, I always did feel that it's hard to actually articulate the closeness of those relationships in that environment. I think felt very real. Star Wars was a little more loosey goosey with it. Um, the loss of Obi-Wan Kenobi when Ben Kenobi died. Luke had known him for like what,
Well,
a
doesn't
couple of
really
days.
die. Right?
Well, no, but Luke
It,
didn't know that in A New Hope. He thought he was gone, and then he heard the voice
yeah,
in his head. Which
I
so
I will say this after the sequel trilogy though, what's more than, and I never meant this quite this way before, and it's been said before, but what's the point of even being alive when Jedi's can hold lightsabers and teleport when they're ghosts?
I hate the
Why
sequels.
wouldn't you just self delete and level up in the sequels, right? Oh, yeah. Let me ask you a question. Do you consider them fanfic? Do you combine the canon when you talk about it? Do you draw a bright line? Do you say Lucas Star Wars a lot, or is it something you're thinking
So
about
I
even?
actually, like I said, for me, and I again, I also don't like the prequels. I think the prequels are a big part of the downfall of Star Wars. The
I gotta
original.
say I disagree, but go
No,
ahead.
and I know people love them. I myself, I see a lot of the problems that end up working their way into the sequel trilogy are the inconsistencies and I guess the over zealousness of Lucas in his own franchise. Again, that's Lucas
Right.
Unchained, but that's where Jar Abrams, J.J. Abrams picks up a lot of those vibes and moves that forward. Then you got Rian Johnson, and so one of the things I want to say about him and author Stephen Walton, who I was watching earlier, and he's a brilliant dude on YouTube. I was talking about the narcissistic traits of Rian Johnson and how basically that movie was meant to hurt the fans. You know, it's not even the attempt at trying to tell a good story. What it is, it's attempt to deconstruct the franchise and hurt the fans to get that whatever the
Isn't it
narcissist
weird how
gets.
Isn't it weird how they feel they want to do that, and it's going on in both franchises right now.
Yeah,
Um, let me ask you a question. You're familiar with my show, but for people on your channel who may not be, when what we do is we have several different areas, and we do 1923 from the Yellowstone Family Live watches on Thursday to go outside sci-fi, because with these two franchises, the reason that I a didn't do a review of Ahsoka is I believe that there's already a boycott of Disney going on. So that's something that I'm going to put in my chat. I've asked it before, but I want to see if people have had any rethinking about it. And what I'm going to ask, and I don't know if you want to replicate it with your subs, but be interesting to see what happens. We had different results, by the way. That on which was in worse shape.
did you end your poll
My
already?
people I did end my poll, and my poll results were which is in worse shape. We got 26 votes, which is fairly scientific in this fandom, at least. It was the number one vote getter, both equally bad. Star Trek is worse, 38%. So like just about half. So 82%, 90%, like yeah, 80% think there's no difference, right? 19% Star Wars, and both have never been better, 0%. Thank you guys. Proud of you all on that one.
Well, there's some.
Here's my question. Would
Yeah.
saving Star Wars work? Because you've seen my show. What we do is we have the idea that we're going to have an open mind, and we're going to see if it can make it. But we have some preconceived notions that we admit, and we talk about how the shows have gone wrong before, and
Yeah.
we kind of like we mock it, we act it out a little bit, we have fun. Because the only thing we can do, we can't save New Trek. We can save Star Trek by preserving it and celebrating the old Star Trek, which you do a lot. But when we review New Trek, We come at it from the point of view that it's going to be good, and each week is the week it's going to turn the corner. But when the episode implodes, it implodes. And if they implode the season, and they do it real early on.
Yeah, that's a lie. Well,
I
Star
know
Wars is
for
the same thing.
me, episode 3 of Star Trek Discovery, episode 1 through 3 of Star Trek Discovery broke me of Star Trek. Where'd you break? And would saving Star Wars work? If I did saving Star Wars work, my thought is people thought of Star Wars differently. It's an event, right? Star Wars was always only in ever movies until now. Although there's much more Star Wars on TV now than there is in movies. So like, how come you don't think you could go? Do you think you could go on there with a show that was like mine? If someone like me did a Saving Star Wars show where they tried to trust it, but when it fell apart, they started mocking it, like, just like out loud, like during a live watch, something like that. Would that work?
I think your big problem with Star Wars versus Star Trek is that original base material. Star Trek has a lot more of it. Granted, it was episodic television, but even the films. Star Wars, you had those 3 films that were the basis of everything else. That's not a lot of origin time. So your building blocks are less. And moving forward from those original films, nothing excuse me, nothing ever came close. The prequels, as I've said, I am not a fan. I know people like them. They nowhere near touch original Star Wars, though. They simply don't.
Not even the moment with Darth Plagueis the Wise, where it's just great. I love that moment and that act. It finally paid off. Ian McDiarmid was great in that scene. To me, I don't. Am I fundamentally wrong? You're allowed to say that from your perspective.
Everybody likes things that are different. I didn't.
Right. It's okay because I like it. I know my heart, but to you, that's just fundamentally like, no, you're like nobing out mentally.
No, he's really just he's showing his hand so obviously.
In Lucas's mind, is he Anakin's father?
Wait, what?
I know the answer to this. I've read this. In Lucas's mind, is Palpatine Anakin's father? Who's Anakin's father?
I don't know the answer to that, and I know they don't explain it. But
George Lucas went out there and said that in his mind, there's absolutely no doubt that Palpatine is Anakin's father.
That's strange because in episode 1, I mean, you have to put an awful lot of weird things together for those 2 characters to come together. I mean, unless
I have an in-world explanation that makes sense, honestly, quickly. I think, one, he could have been Plagueis. Lucas's mind wasn't made up till he sold it to Disney, and right before he sold it, he changed who Plagueis was canonically. Right, he changed him to a different race so that he couldn't be Anakin's father. That's the very last thing George Lucas does, by the way. And that, by the way, think about what that means for Reylo. They both have the same magic grandpa. Reylo kiss. If you think that, how do you like that perfect Star Wars? That kiss between Luke and Leia now on the Death Star or on Hoth it's bad, but tell me now what you think of the Reylo kiss, knowing it's what we would call in our world and language aunt and nephew.
Yeah, that's some Ghibli creepy stuff. I know Lucas can.
Did you realize it seeing the movie?
I'm sorry.
Did you realize it? So I guess you didn't realize it. See the movie.
No, I didn't know that until you just said it.
It's true. So I was like, everyone was like, because it was so weird, and I was like, ew.
No, I
way to go,
I have a problem with it. It sounds like Lucas just kind of making shit up, which he did. I mean, he did that going into the second movie because he didn't know what he was going to do after Star Wars.
I thought that's what he was supposed to do.
I mean, but he didn't
but in
have.
a good way, right? You're
I mean,
saying
he didn't have
he's
a
too
story
fast and
mapped
loose.
out. It was. I mean, it was. Like I said, you didn't have.
He had a
That's why
little
he comes
more of
out
a
with episode
schematic the
4.
second time, but yeah. So, you know who
Um,
else didn't have a story mapped out though? Tolkien. So
what?
that's not
Wait, what?
necessarily bad. Tolkien didn't have his story mapped out.
Well, but he did a hell of a lot of world building, though. Um,
Oh, the rejected manuscript Silmarillion is the world building document for Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. But he didn't have a plan for where the story of the Lord of the Rings went. And in fact, the Hobbit story, where he finds the ring, is the second edition. In the first edition, which was still around to be published in the books I had in grammar school, in the Riddles in the Dark, it's not a magic ring that makes you any more than invisible. It's just not the one ring. That was retro. That's a
interesting.
retcon. That is a
I didn't know
retcon.
that.
Google it.
That's crazy. See, this is what I was
Yeah.
talking
Hey,
about, folks.
DevMag,
Impressive
pirate, you
and
made it.
terrifying.
Yes. So I guess I asked you about this. How about this? What was your weirdest in theater experience for you and for the crowd as a Star Trek and then Star Wars fan? So Trek first. Weirdest in theater moment when you were watching the movie for the first time or in theaters.
Weirdest.
Weirdest or most profound, something that really made you
Okay.
think.
Well,
And hello, Stephen Ransom.
most
And Phantom
profound is
outside.
always going to be the death of Spock, just without question.
Stuff. Yes. Ship. Oh,
There's just, there's no way around that. Star Wars. Well, the one scene that we talked about just a little bit ago, the scene with Vader and Luke and the Emperor.
Most
Like I
profound.
said, that made a very big impact on me. There were a lot of interesting scenes, a lot of good scenes. The story where or the in episode 4 when Obi-Wan is talking about Luke's father.
Right.
And this is
he was a navigator on a spice freighter.
Yeah. Uh uh he made up some stuff. It's one of those things in rewatch you really
How did
see
it make
it.
you feel as an adopted person watching the movie? And did either movie mess up your mind about adoption? Because I will tell you this, Empire Strikes Back colored my feelings about adoption because I was offered to have my birth parents unveiled after I saw that movie. And I said no to my dad and mom. I said, I got enough
That's
parents
interesting.
and family, and I prefer it with just you guys. I don't want, and I didn't say it that way. I was a kid, but I was like, no, one dad and mom's enough. I don't want any other mom and dad. And by the
Well, it
way,
does
I
complicate
didn't.
things.
I simply said how I felt. I said, you're the only mom and dad I want, And by the way, that turned out to be the right answer. But I did meet my father later in life, and I got to be a good friend with him.
I know my birth father. He's a good dude. He's a good cat. The woman who was married to both of them made some terrible decisions, and that's how we end up where we are now. So
I guess I'll quickly drop the link in the chat right in Streamlabs. One charity that we both checked out, but please check it out yourself. Again, we don't handle the money. It's Disabled American Veterans. It does not give them health care. They have the VA for that, but it gives them things that make their lives a little better. It might help them out with some cash or stuff like that. I know that my due diligence showed them to be highly rated and 99%, and I don't know if you're familiar with this charity. But you are, in fact, willing to disclose about that aspect we talked about with the military?
Yeah, so DAV, I mean, it's not just they help out when you're retiring. They help people get set up for getting their disability rating. They are a major part when you are transitioning from active duty to retired. So yeah, they are an awesome organization.
My father's widow was able to get some sleep as he was able to have hospice at home because of organizations like this. So if we don't touch this, and Roman's in a position to know what he's talking about as well. We're not going to get any money out of this, but you please check it out before you give anything. Don't trust me, but this charity, I believe even the Army approves of it, but I believe the Armed Forces approve of it. But
Oh yeah, they are in San Diego, for instance. They are right next to the No Kidding Veteran Affairs folks. They work hand in hand. So yeah, DAV is a extraordinary organization, and yes, I support them immensely. So anybody
Cool.
who
And do
does support
you want to
vets,
give your
that is the way
provenance
that's the
on
place
that
to go.
one? Are you comfortable telling people your provenance to talk about military matters?
Well, I can talk, yeah, whatever. No, whatever military stuff you want to talk about, I'm happy to talk
I
about.
would just tell them your military background without being overly specific.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, my channel knows who I am. Your channel does not necessarily know who I am.
Right. My
So,
subs don't know this.
who is this man and why is he speaking? So, I
This is
was
a
in the
great
Navy.
warrior and a good
Uh,
friend.
I don't know how to feel about that. I was in the Navy for 30 years and 28 days. I'm a retired Navy Master Chief. I worked in aviation. So all of your conflicts in the last 30 years, I got to be there. It was not nearly as exciting as you would think. So, but yeah, so
Thank
I did my
you.
bit for king and country.
I was in one battle, the Battle of 9/11, where I saw some things, but I wasn't close enough to be in jeopardy. But we didn't know it that day. I know that I didn't have the stuff to be there. We're 7 days away from that anniversary as well. But let's turn back to what we were doing before, because let's stay on topic. But we did our due diligence and our good deed on this, our American Labor Day, and happy Labor Day to all Americans, and happy Labor Day to all our veterans who served with honor. Let me ask you another question. Same thing though. Star Wars in theater low point. Low point. You could give one or two.
Hmm. Give me a moment here. Well,
There's been so many.
there's so many. Gosh, I don't even want to talk about the sequels because the sequels as a whole are a low point. So I'm gonna pluck from the
You're saying we're
prequels.
sustaining the same level of low, or you're saying they start out horrible and fall off a further cliff? They're free
There,
fall, right?
there,
We
for
begin
me,
free
there
fall
is
in TFA.
no redeeming factor in the sequels. Not one. Not one. In the prequels, however, the prequels, like I said, I don't hate the prequels. I just don't think the prequels were necessary. Um, Probably my the low for me, and it's in Revenge of the Sith, and we talked about it just a skosh. The dialogue between Obi-Wan and Anakin on Mustafar,
Dagobah. Dagobah.
the
Oh,
the
Mustafar.
lava
Sorry, yes.
planet, was some of the worst. Not only is it just poorly written, the delivery of whiny Anakin, because he's not angry, he's whiny. He's acting like a child
George
who is
Lucas's
getting what he
instincts are
wants.
terrible there as a director. Yes.
Oh, that scene for me could have, if it was just silence and it was just them fighting, it would have been vastly superior to the dreadful dialogue we were forced to endure between these two characters. So that's a
Okay.
big low.
Good answer. Quick question. Name one line worse than "I hate sand." There's so many now.
To me, the Jedi are evil, or from my perspective, the Jedi, or whatever it was. That's what that
Oh my
that.
God! How about does it hurt? Son, come back from the First Order.
Oh, like I said, I gotta.
I bypassed the compressor.
I've got a mental block in place for those. They're just so bad. They're so
I'm
terrible.
going to give you my high and low on Star Wars, and then we'll both do our high and lows on Trek. You ready? So the high for me, I guess, which was profound and life changing, and I had to have my adoption re-explained to me by my parents after the movie because of my age, is I was freaked out as fuck by Empire Strikes Back. And then later, I was only a little bit older when I saw Return of the Jedi by myself. I guess the high for me was the payoff of Vader's saga, and I honestly felt more excitement. And remember, we do have a space chase going on when this happens, and the destruction of Death Star 2 as it's blowing up, and we're having some fighting going on still, and there's some stuff going on Endor. But the thing is, like, I'm now old enough, but still not that old, but old enough to understand adoption. I had it re-explained to me while I was crying after Empire Strikes Back. And to me, the high point was, help me take this mask off, but you'll die. That to me, the end of Vader's journey and the appearance of original Anakin. I don't care, though. I like Hayden Christensen there now. That was my high point. My low point, I have two. My prequel trilogy low point was when Anakin confronts Palpatine in his office, and he goes, "You're the Sith Lord." And everyone in my theater went,
That is,
"What the fuck? Holy shit!" No, the whole theater was shocked. And I was like, I should start selling fake medical supplements. People are dumb.
oh my God.
There was genuine shock in the movie theater. So at that, I lost a lot of faith in humanity at that moment. For Star Trek, my high point would be we tried it once your way, Connie, a game for a rematch. And Khan, I'm laughing at the superior intellect. I think that redeemed, refocused, re-energized, slightly fucking angry, and now bloodthirsty Admiral Kirk is just absolutely, that was my Star Trek high point of my life. My Star Trek low point was not, I have two. I have two of those as well. The low point was
No,
in the Little Ed in the
accepted.
same movie. Spock! I never took the Kobayashi Maru test until now, Admiral. I'm curious as to what you think of my solution. Spock! I have been and always will be your friend. I started crying. I also cried when the Enterprise 1 was destroyed in Star Trek 3. But
Oh
that's
man.
that's my low point. And my other Star Trek low point was when fake Bones, fake Kirk, and fake and this is in theaters, and fake Spock are in fake brig with fake Khan, and Khan is now just the Winter Soldier. He's not a politician, a genius, a president, or any of those things anymore. He's just the Winter Soldier, right? And they're like, Kirk is like, "Who are you?" Because like he's already done a bunch of things. And by the way, Khan's plan, where like I'm like during Into Darkness, I hated Star Trek 09, but during Into Darkness, like my mind is broken by the fact that he chose to attack Starfleet headquarters with a helicopter. Roman, you know these matters. What do you think of our chances if we attack the UN? It's on the water. How about we take an 18th century English warship like the Wasp, the one that John Paul
It's a
Jones built? Well, how
fantastic
about we
plan.
take the Bonhomme Richard and attack the UN? You think we'll be all right? How long you think we'll go, and how much damage will we do?
Yeah, it's like
300, because the
literally
technology
there
is
are
as old. That's as
no
old.
there are no defenses. There are no defenses. Really. There and that's what they
The
were
UN has
implying
the
with that attack.
NYPD helicopters and military overflights during the general session, right?
So
There's military
I had
overflights. I
I
live here.
had
Trust
so
me.
many problems with the Abrams with just the Abrams films at all. You know, it seems like a clever way to move along, but what it is again what we talked about earlier. All you're doing is rehashing the past. You just shuffle the deck a little bit differently, but the cards are all the same. Um,
Mm.
oh,
Um.
I hate the
Also,
Kelvin universe. I hate it. I hate it. I
so
hate it.
let me just
I hate
finish
it.
very quickly my con story about how much I hate that scene. So they're in the brig, right? And if you see this movie again, it's on TV constantly because no one likes it. So in this movie the low point, yeah, in Into Darkness in the brig, he goes, what's your name? And if you know Star Trek, you know that these guys don't know who Khan is, right? They don't know who Khan is because there's no Space Seed. And by the way, Space Seed probably would have been a better movie and it cost a lot less, but JJ didn't care. He was already out of there in bad faith. But I thought that when he's like, what's your name? And he's like, my name is and it's just like he says it was like scary boo way. And if you look, like Carl Urban may not have studied it right because he's sort of like, I mean, his McCoy's really good, but it's not McCoy. But and he's really good in a lot of stuff, but he, those movies are terrible. He kind of like reacts like he's a little bit concerned. Spock also seems a bit concerned because that Spock's really emotional. Only Chris Pine plays it correctly. Chris Pine stares at him in complete and utter confusion and nothing registers. And he's like, well, listen, Mr. fucking Khan, and it's like, he's like, what are you going to do? Yes. Hit me in the face again and again. I don't think James Tiberius Kirk would have his arm thrown out by 7 shots to Khan's face. I think James Tiberius Kirk got about 85 full-on shots loaded into his arm before he needs 0.2 seconds for cooldown to have 85 more. He's James Tiberius Kirk. So yeah, that was my low point in the movies.
See, again, almost like with Star Wars, I can't even qualify the.
Look how beautiful she looks here, and look how cool.
Kelvin
look at this strong woman. She wasn't strong enough, right? Oh, gosh, and I didn't. You know what I think happens to Palpatine when they throw him down the shaft?
Do tell.
This one's been said before, but how about this? He uses the Force to kind of control his fall, right? He shoots out into space, which now, if we count the sequels, which I don't, but let's do it for this. He's and I did not originate this, but I think it's the best. Might be from EFAP, but he flies out the South Pole of the Death Star, and his fingers are burned off from like holding himself back and stuff. But like he closes his eye and reaches out his hand, and we do a 1-for-1 of Space Leia, where he uses, and we see the Imperial fleet in battle, and we see one battle cruiser with one commander, and he's like, he's alive, he's coming this way, it's the Emperor, and like he drifts towards the ship with his eyes closed, and then like we see him on the gurney with the mask, and his eyes are closed, and they reel him away, and they're like, and one guy turns to the other and goes, somehow Palpatine has returned. And we end it right there. I think they can't change George's movie, but that's my fanfic movie.
Well, it's not worse.
Honestly, I think it improves the movie because it's fucking, we usually be laughing. Whoever said that, it might have been Rags, but whoever said it was Rags. Fair appellation to Rags and Mauler said this one. That is a great way. That's fucking funny.
Oh my God. Can
you imagine it? Can you imagine? Try to just visualize it for 1 second, please.
Oh, I can.
Picture the Imperial officer shot from behind, looking out the window, exactly like Space Leia. He's alive, and they pull him towards. He's like starts moving towards, and his eyes open, and he starts moving towards the hour.
So terrible.
And then, like, by the way, sequels. You know what I've saved for my retirement, and I think I might have fucked up. When they fell to 99 cents, I bought $120 worth of Admiral Holdo Black Series figures from Star Wars. And I thought that maybe, I believe Disney, right? I figured that they would appreciate and that people would need them to complete these coveted sequel trilogy sets. And that they would be absolutely, totally, and completely great. But I don't know. Like, from what I understand now, they're next to the Bud Light with the "Just Take Them" sign next to it.
So between those and the Reva action figures, I mean, that's quite a.
I saw the Reva action figure this week at CVS.
Did you really? Oh my God!
$6.99. It was like a really big Reva with her stupid lightsaber. Which side is Reva on? And how do lightsabers work?
These are all good questions. Apparently, not the way we thought they worked. Because what they should do is if you get run through with one, it's not just a hole in you. It is burned your inside
there at the bottom, by the way, so we could put a pin in that one. And I'm sorry, go ahead with the lightsaber, and I want to address that next. It's a really good PDB at the very bottom of our chat.
Oh, that one there. Okay, yeah.
Thank you so much.
No,
Yeah, we'll talk about that
no,
next. But go
the
ahead.
chopping,
How's
the
the
chopping
lightsaber
off
work?
stuff, all that works fine. The problem with the if the internal staffing is it cooks your insides like a pot pie. They are because the thing burns at this absurdly high temperature. That's
No,
why they're
no,
able to cut
no.
through
I
blast.
saw a lightsaber wound in Ahsoka. It's like having a cigar put out on your side, bro. I
Yes,
saw
that's
the
all.
result.
That's what the lightsaber
And
has
they
become.
move too. They move. Okay. Yeah. So a follow-up question: why train with wooden sticks when lightsabers are essentially harmless?
Yeah, it
Okay.
doesn't matter anymore, right?
Star Wars question I always want to ask. I've got the Star Wars guy. Star Wars guy, how come the only time anybody ever bleeds when their arm is cut off is when the guy's arm is cut off in the Creature Cantina by Obi-Wan? I have an in-world explanation. Do you?
I actually don't. That's a good question because it shouldn't have bled.
It
Based
doesn't
on
bleed later. Well, George Lucas reacts to the
oh, did
rating
they
and
take it
changes.
out? Did he take it out?
No, they don't take it out. They leave it in. He deals with it. It's not too much blood for 1977 PG, but once PG-13 and other stuff comes in, he can't get away with it anymore. But and he has a great idea of having the lightsaber cauterize the wound. So here's my in-world explanation. Tell me what you think of this one. You ready? Obi-Wan was very old and had been in many, 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 many battles with that lightsaber. I believe he has the same lightsaber from the middle of Attack of the Clones on, right? Or does he get? He might even get his original one back. I don't know if the blade color changes. I think I know he's consistent from
I think it's
at least
supposed to be
the
the
end
same
of Attack of
lightsaber.
the Clones. It's not the one he's thrown in the arena, but by the end, the one on his belt is the new one he's constructed.
Right.
So Obi-Wan's lightsaber, an amazing, amazing relic in that world, extremely powerful. I think that when he's using it in the Creature Cantina, he's been using it for so long that it's still deadly, but it's not cauterizing anymore because he needs to
I
meditate
don't.
over the kyber crystals longer. It's not operating at full strength. What do you think? Or that alien's just weird?
or he didn't get a clean cut. I mean, it was a most of a cut, and it just kind of fell off.
If I
What little
hold it
bit was
near you, it's
left.
cauterizing you.
Yeah, I know. I was stretching. Um,
What's hotter, a lightsaber or an acetylene torch? About the same.
lightsaber.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
lightsabers are supposed to be at like 56,000 degrees. It's like I said, it's a crazy hot. Which
And what's a
quite
cigarette?
honestly means operationally they become totally not functional because if you get even remotely close to it, you're going to get cooked. So their explanations don't make a ton of sense. Um, but they're supposed to be that hot. Like I said, that's how they're able to cut through blast doors and such. Automatically cauterizing, got it, makes sense. But if they were just a couple thousand degrees, it would still be an incredibly deadly weapon. But they had to make that.
By the way,
I don't know why in the lore they had to make them that hot. Like I said, it seems goofy. And like I said, as far as a practical matter goes, it doesn't quite make sense.
by the way, would you say 5,600?
1,000.
56,000. Okay, so for context, cigarettes 8 to 1,200 was the two answers I got while I looked. I guess because we're getting close to the end here, let's talk about J.J. Abrams for a minute.
Oh, that bastard! Yeah, the franchise killer.
Yes, he is.
I'll go back just briefly on what I said about Abrams. He needs a minder. And when he doesn't have one, that you get what you get. He's also not a good storyteller. He took over both of these franchises, and did what he did with them. And the sequel, The Force Awakens, the best of the terrible movies, and using the word best is you understand the context of it. But I
Yeah.
despise what he did with Star Trek. Despise it.
Yeah, so like, what did you think him going into Star Wars? This was one thing that shocked me. It turns out there's only just so much of an overlap of fans, less than I thought. There's a lot of people with enthusiasm for it.
When I first, see, this is before he had totally crapped the bed. No, it's not. I wanted this, just like you and I talked about this. I wanted the Star Wars movies to be good. I wanted the Star Trek movies to be good. and they weren't anything bad robot. That's the thing about it now. In the context of everything we've gotten out of him, we know that whatever he's touching at this point is going to be garbage. It's not going to be good. It's going to be a lesser version of a great thing. That's what J.J. Abrams brings you. I understand what people would, the enthusiasm of a name they know who's done things that were good in the past, coming forward and being associated with these. And it seemed like the Star Wars community in general was pretty enthusiastic when the Force Awakens was in the mix, but you didn't know what you were getting. You didn't know you're never going to have Han, Luke, and Leia on stage again, or on screen together. You don't know that. You assume you're going to have them together.
No, I think we will. I think we're going to have CGI Ghost Han, CGI Ghost Leia, and then CGI Ghost Chewie. Well, they'll probably be real Chewie, right? But CGI ghosts of all of them, unfortunately, Roman. I don't think we've seen the last of our heroes, and I don't think we've seen the worst of our heroes. And you know what?
You're hurting me.
Here's the thing. We all have to deal with this as much as we hate it. The simple fact of the matter is that J.J. Abrams has a disproportionate amount of influence on our lives. And I would ask you, which point to the part of the mystery box that hurts you the most. And if you want to share the image that I'm presenting, go ahead.
Let me bring this up.
There we go. There's the mystery box. There, ladies and gentlemen, is the man. Now, did you know that JJ grew up in Manhattan and then he went to school on the North Shore of Long Island? He was probably among the first graduating classes from Sarah Lawrence University to have men in it. So, I mean, like, he used to not be stupid, because if you're going to go to college, going to a school that's all girls until you start, all rich girls on the North Shore of Long Island, that's pretty cool, right? So he lives in Manhattan. All right, and get this. Now, Sarah Lawrence is on the North Shore of Long Island, I believe in Nassau County, okay? So the farthest part of Nassau County is about 45 minutes from downtown Manhattan. He says he had to move to a different coast to go to school.
That's not... that sums up J.J. Abrams right there, though. It's not what it seems to be.
It's technically true. He moved from the coast of the Hudson River to the coast.
Technically.
I left my home and went to a different coast. By the way, I think what happens was his father moves to has a house in California and New York. And what's your favorite movie from his father?
Steven Spielberg?
No. Yeah, he was Steven Spielberg's babysitter. No, J.J. Abrams' father. And I think we've seen enough of him. Oh, God. No, J.J. Abrams' father is Abram Zucker Abram, Airplane, Police Squad.
Oh,
you didn't know that?
No.
Talent skips a generation. Check out John Solo, written by Jonathan Kaz and Lawrence Kasdan's son. Talent skips a generation. But I will say this, Jonathan Kasdan is as good of a writer
so much.
as his mother. Yeah,
it would definitely be Airplane. I loved Airplane. Airplane is still funny. We actually watched it not terribly long ago, because my son had never seen it. So I enjoy the slapstick, zany. I don't know, parody. Because it was of the airport movies of that era, which, depending on your age, you may have no idea even exist. You know they exist, but I mean, the younger viewers. Wow,
my favorite movie from him is Naked Gun, because it has Khan, because it's hilarious. And
I thought you were going to say because it had O.J. Simpson.
You know what? Mr. Simpson, I hear, is a really good golfer, and I don't know. I haven't watched the news ever in my life. I understand there's something called the news.
I have no idea about Mr. Simpson.
And for those of us listening on Rumble, you guys, you're making a great statement by having so many of you listen right now. Thank you. You know what? Rumble, equally viable, and I enjoyed the freedom of speech there. I'm going to be doing some Rumble onlys. It's just, could you like and follow your buddy Admiral Teag over over on Rumble because what's going on is we really do need your help to get enough bandwidth to be able to upload more, and honestly, more than anything, with the chats. So if you want and Rumble's your thing, get over there, because the only thing stopping us right now is that there's really no way to there's really not enough people on there to chat, because you have to join to chat. But I joined like 8 months ago now, and I promise like no one's gonna come after you. And I'm gonna put that chat right into the StreamYard so it goes to both groups of subs, but I know mine have it. But I'm on Rumble, and I guess you're on Rumble too, aren't you? Or you're
I'm
trying it,
sometimes
right?
on Rumble. You're on Rumble more
Uh,
often than I'm not on Rumble a lot, but I probably
I
should start doing it on this Thursday when we do our show. What sci-fi Mombi? Does that say sci-fi Mombi?
it's the
I think
Sci-Fi
it does.
Mombi.
Fuzzy Door is rebooting Police Squad.
That might work. Fuzzy Door, Seth MacFarlane.
I don't know. The words reboot with anything for me is poison. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. You guys need to come up with original ideas, or simply use something that no one has ever done before that is in print. There are thousands and thousands of stories that have been written that have never seen the screen. Find one of those if you can't come up with your own. Or, for the love of God, please write your own material. Come up with new stuff. Stop rehashing the past and basically, on the shoulders of giants. Let the giants be. They did their job. In this modern age, there's no reason why you can't still come up with stories. They did it for thousands of years. And then we got to the 2000s and we stopped. We stopped writing new things.
Well,
And we
Revenge of the
relied
Sith,
solely upon the works of others.
2005, right?
But
2006. But yeah, you know what? Uh, I subspaced you. Let me know what you think. But I'll
oh,
just say right here, I'll do what I didn't do before. I'm gonna write for you the Star Wars movie
yeah.
that I think could save Star Wars, and then you tell me what you think. And
Hit it.
I'll watch the subspace while I say it. Get this. I need $130 million to make this movie. To make it. You ready? I'm going to find some stage
Hit me.
actors who are pretty good, right? And they're not going to need a lot of money, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a distant planet, right? And we're going to have a Jedi and like maybe like a 17, 18, 19-year-old Padawan. And it's going to be clear that it's not his father. We have an ad hoc family where he's mentored and raised him in the best spirits of mentoring, adoption, and friendship, right? But it's not father and son quite. It's like mentor. It's
Right.
very much a Jedi and Padawan, right? We don't talk about most failed military expedition of all time, Order 66, because we don't want to break people's immersion. We hire the best person we can to write the music for this, right? And for most of the first half of the movie, what we do is we have them together. They have a couple of comic adventures. Then they have a more serious adventure. And then what happens is we find out down the line that they're bonded and have a good relationship with the natives of this planet, who are different kinds of aliens. Star Destroyer shows up, stormtroopers come down, they start slaughtering people. These Jedis go fighting, and we have them do the right thing simply because it's the right thing to do. They talk about they don't equivocate on doing it. They just mention that they're afraid, and then like they meditate on the Force, and they go attack. And I don't know if it would end with them in the middle of the fight, but we'll give you plenty of fighting, or have them like somehow their fight inspires the natives of the planet to rebel, and we end with a clean win over the Empire. And we have some great music playing as we fade away from these, with the hand on the shoulder as the master lays on the ground coughing and passes away, and hands his Padawan his sword and says, "You're a Jedi now." And then filmed by Admiral Teag. So you tell me. What would you see that movie, and do you think it can pull it off for 130 million? That's one Star
I
Destroyer
don't know. I
project.
don't know if you could pull it off for the budget, just because modern filmmaking is so horribly,
I
horribly
have no
expensive.
stars.
No. I was gonna say using an unknown cast is brilliant. One, because that's where you get a lot of your just amazing performances, anyways. Instead of dragging out the people that, quite honestly, they're tired of doing it. And it's hard to, quite honestly, it's trying to think of a good put together cast these days. For me is difficult, but on its own, that is I like the intimate setting as well. I think that's good. Um, because it is a more contained story. That's something that we haven't really seen, which is also new. That's exciting. So I like it, dude. I do. I think that's solid. Now, like I said, the budget, even with the unknown cast, is still going to be difficult because you still have an effects department that you have to pay. Even if your natural film locations are work. It depends on how alien you want to make the environment as well. Like I said, you start finding all the things, which is
This
where the budget ended up going
I
like
think.
this.
How about this for Alien? It's just a rain. It's like a deciduous pine forest.
It's okay. But the problem with Pine Forest, like I said, it's fine, but it is something that we have seen, and that's a fairly generic
All
environment
right,
because it's
jungle.
people use forests and deserts when they're working on a budget because
How
it's cheap
about
to
just
do and
jungle then?
it works.
All right,
Jungle could be,
mountainous plateau.
I mean, something
Mountainous.
like Iceland. I would, but then you have to get to Iceland. Iceland looks like an alien planet. One of my YouTube or my Twitter friends goes there quite often. She just takes these amazing pictures, and it looks like you're on another world. It's quite extraordinary. So there are places out there, but you have to have usable things. So what they have to have a habitat they're in. If you're making a town, da da da. All the things that you add on to that basic plot premise, I think sounds fantastic though.
I would have to agree. I know we're facing a pretty
Yeah,
hard
I have
out
a
here. We
hard
have
I have a
the
hard shutdown. I have
okay.
to
So
go. So I am sorry about that.
I dropped right into the StreamYards, I believe, your link for my subs. I think they'll enjoy your content. Does this deserve a part two, or do you think we covered it all?
We covered quite a bit. I mean, the thing about these topics, I mean, we could have done 2 hours on either one of these, talking just straight about this.
We might need to
With
talk a little
the
more on
way
that
we've
one.
approached it from the good to bad. We didn't go deep dive into any of this stuff. You go deep dive into things, we're here for 16 hours. Um, could we do it? Yeah. And would I like to? Yeah. or
Okay,
or we can
cool.
do
So
a
that was
version
a
of it. We
debate.
can do a version of it talking about, so maybe something a little bit more specific. But we
What
can
happened with
jump off that
your
bridge.
just to finish up business? I had a poll. You had a poll. I'm ready to close mine. I'm closing it
Oh yeah,
actually. You have 20 of your
so
seconds to vote. Where are you at with yours? Did you change the question, or you want the same question?
no, I didn't change the question. I'm sorry. I got
That's
distracted
cool.
and managed to cock that up. So we ended up Star Trek doing is in better shape at 28%. Star Wars is screwed at 71%. I don't know. That's kind of, the math doesn't quite work for me. I guess that's fine though.
So a lot of people think Star Trek could be fixed easier, and including you.
Yeah, no, I do. I think Star Trek
By the way,
has
would you
much
see
more
my
potential.
Star Wars movie? What do you think of my Star Wars movie? Would you see it?
The one you just described?
Yeah, would you see it?
Yeah. First of all,
If it was
Abrams isn't
if I
associated with
pulled
it,
it
is
off
he?
well.
Who's
No,
who's,
no, I'm
who's
gonna bring in I'm gonna direct it. I'm gonna direct it. I'm gonna bring PDB to build the world, and it'll be a saving Star Trek production of it. And I have I wrote my save for Star Trek too. So your polls that I asked my fans, would saving Star Wars work? Where someone did a show like mine for Star Wars, and I got 57% said yes, which leaves us with 42% now.
it's
14
optimistic.
votes on that one. It is well, you know what? I just don't know if people are ready to laugh at Star Wars yet. Like, people haven't given up hope. Star Trek. In Star Trek, we found out they have Kirk and Picard's DNA. So
Yeah, that's
I
really
predict a
sad. Oh my God.
female clone hybrid of Kirk and Picard sent back in time. And oh geez, let me ask you one last question. Do you believe that these stories are meat shielded with their casts?
It's funny. I hadn't heard
And let
that
me just
term
explain what meat
before.
shielding is. It's from
Yeah, and
meat shielding is what you do in a video game when you grab an NPC you don't care about to absorb bullets or damage for you. And if you meat shield your story, let's say that I know my story's not good, so I stunt cast it with people that if you criticize them, I can call you an istophobe. Do
yep,
you think that's going on?
I think Star Wars definitely. I think
So
Star
you
Trek
believe in meat
not.
shilding?
I I do.
Meat
Do I
shielding the
believe it,
story.
would
And
I
it's
do
the
it
writers,
myself?
right?
No, but I believe the
No,
studios do
no,
it.
no. Do you believe that? Do you believe? No, you don't believe in meat shielding yourself. Do you believe that Star Trek, Star Wars, and Star Trek writers engage in meat shielding? So when we say I hated Obi-Wan, they're like you hated Reva because you're an istophobe.
See, like I said, for Star Wars, I can say yes, they are doing it. I don't know if they're now. I don't think they do it intentionally. I think they do it
I
afterwards.
think it's quite
They can
intentional, my
find.
friend.
Really, you
Well,
think they threw Riva in there
I
specifically
think that
because they
story
knew
was
they had a bad
bad. And they're
product?
like, I think when they read the script, someone was like, "It's fucking bad. It's fucking," and they're like, "Well, then,
How about this
let's
character?
we'll do this." Yeah. Or I mean, she doesn't seem well thought out, or they changed what she was in the middle because, like, again, what's a lightsaber do? Not even the younglings were affected in Order
Yeah, no
66. She
lie.
survives 2 lightsaber wounds from Vader. Two. Vader's shit now.
Yeah.
By the way, should Obi-Wan be charged with war crimes?
Oh God,
Hello,
I don't
William
think anybody in
Shakespeare.
Star Wars can be charged with war crimes because everyone in Star Wars will be charged with war crimes. Um, if you look at the amount of casualties that are inflicted in Star Wars, they are tremendous. Um, so, God,
We've got so much to talk about. You know
it
what?
hurts me so
Maybe
much. Um,
we'll rewatch this one before the next time, I guess, if you can answer, if you don't think you have an answer now, but or if not, go
I don't
ahead.
think I have an answer. I don't think for Obi-Wan, I don't. I mean, of
The
course he
show that
died.
broke me was Obi-Wan, and it was episode 1 when he wouldn't help the other Jedi. I'm like, what a fuck stick.
Oh, that was no. He was a
That
very
other Jedi,
shallow character.
I would
He was a
rather follow
terrible.
that
He
other
was
Jedi. That other
no.
Jedi was
He's
at
like,
least brave.
oh, fuck off. I have other things to
No,
do. We lost the war.
yeah,
Um,
the guy he fucks over who he lets die is actually I would have preferred a movie where that guy makes it and we see him do whatever he does. Because I think what he's gonna do is at least go kill some Imperials and like destroy like some Imperial equipment.
do something. Don't
What did
just quit
Obi-Wan do? Sit around and knock over some IKEA chairs?
and cut up desert whale meat or whatever he was doing. It was
What did
terrible.
you
It was
hear
really
about
depressing.
first? What did you hear about first? The Kenobi show or Riva?
Reva.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
I knew
believe
about
that
Reva. There's going to be because she came out. They do this. They
I believe
um
that the actress was a victim of the studio, but she was a sucker. They suckered her. Listen, Disney are good con people, and I'll just say very quickly before I let you finish there. Star Trek, I pity the cast. They're slaves to Star Trek. What happens with the bad robot people? They haven't tried this yet with Disney, but they do it on Star Trek, and they did it on Rings of Power. Is you sign up for 3 or 4 years and they immediately blame the fans as being way too toxic, say that they're horrible. Then they go, by the way, would you like to be our fan? And then they tell you your salary hasn't changed, but the time that it takes to do this is now double. So that salary is cut now in half, right?
gosh.
Then they've written a terrible story and they either get fired and get their buyout. And I think that's what they're trying to do. Their idea is get fired 3 times and then have a crime show that works. I think these are frustrated teen. They want to write a show about a teen vampire who's also a CSI. Like that's the ideal show for the writers of both of these franchises. And that's how I'm feeling right now. They're very
Lord.
unqualified. I think that everyone seems to feel Star Trek is the most
Yeah.
savable. I'm sorry that we couldn't read every single chat, but this was about a conversation with me and Roman. I'm going to look back at everyone's chats and try to answer either on Twitter if you're following me on at Admiral _Teag, all capital, or you can follow me on here, where I'll probably talk about some of them on my Friday show.
Right on. That sounds good. So yeah, so before we jet out, the things that pardon me, goodness gracious. What else you got coming up this week?
This week, what's day is okay? So I didn't do my
Today's
show on
Monday. I get
Sunday because I
confused
was
too.
tired. It's Monday. Yeah, I don't think I'm. I think there's something in the works for Tuesday. Tomorrow I do. I'll be on Titillating Tuesdays with Comic Relief Crusader. Please check that out. Mike Lorber, the Comic Relief Crusader, is a great and amazing guy, and like we have a lot of laughs when we're on together. He's really, really just a fun guy. He's cool. He hates the woke. And then he confronts me with the fact that I'm dyslexic, and we have a lot of fun with it because I graduated from high school in New York City, and technically, like they only guaranteed that graduates as of 2024 will be able to read. And as anyone's ever heard me read, I mangle everything. And so you get stuff like me and him trying to read the New York Times and understand, and explaining what hot garbage the story is. So I do that on Tuesday. Thursday is the Yellowstone Live Watch. Fridays is Comic Relief Crusader from 3 to 5. Saving Star Trek starts at 5. If there's or 10 after, because I have to stream between streams, if you know what I means. And also Sundays at 8 p.m. all times Eastern Standard, I believe. I'm -4 or -5 GMT, and there's a bunch of uploads and backlogs. I do uploads. Check out my movie reviews. Check out my broadcast with Gamer1745, where we do Patton is free on YouTube this month. The movie
Nice.
Patton. Well, Gamer1745 is really a great YouTuber who knows everything about World War II and tank models and stuff like that and history. And we watched it together with Captain Fandom Nerd. We had a great time. And I would invite you if you want to do one of those too. I'd like to do maybe midway 2019.
Midway wasn't a terrible movie.
2019?
Wait, is that the one with Ben Affleck in it?
No, that's Pearl Harbor.
That's Pearl
Midway
Harbor. That one was
2019
terrible. The
has
other one I
no
didn't think was. I
real
didn't think
stars
the other
in
one was
it.
terrible.
Midway
That was all right.
2019 is Roland Emmerich, and it's actually got pretty good special effects and attacks, and it's the only movie he doesn't get too lost on in a long time because he's chained to a lot of real events, and the attacks go off pretty much as they should. I would love to watch that with you because it's actually good for him and it's brief.
I think I actually own that one, which is a little bit weird, but I do. I think I have
the
that in my
2019
library.
one.
Yeah,
The parts
I
back
don't own the
home are a
other one.
little bit weak. Mandy Moore's pretty and fun to watch, and she's a nice actress and she's good. It's trying to be We Were Soldiers in Gettysburg. It's got flaws, but the soundtrack isn't one of them. The action isn't one of them. The pacing isn't one of them all the time. But it's not great, but I would like to watch it with you. And maybe watch both at different times. We rate them together. But I really have enjoyed this co-broadcast. Everybody's been good and linked up. Also, there's people that I've mentioned. Their links are in the chat, and they'll be in the live chat replay. I've really enjoyed meeting your subs. I hope that they found our mutual back and forth respectful. We're co-hosts on this one. Everyone should know.
Yes.
And we're just finding our rhythm. So if you feel I stepped on your hero, and he's worthy of your worship, Roman of the Empire, I apologize. But, I am also a Roman citizen. We're both Romans here, right?
We are.
Men of Rome, Roman sailors, still Roman soldiers.
I think
They're
all
soldiers on
Roman.
ships.
I think they're all soldiers. Yeah, they didn't really have sailors to speak of, not in the context that we think of sailors.
Am I asking?
But
So you
here to
are
there.
technically a Roman soldier. Quick question. So is that your ship if you were to join my fleet? Everyone who joins my fleet has a ship that they imagine they would have. In my fleet, I have like 5 Borg cubes, 3 Galacticas, a bunch of Constitution class starships. The Serenity, there's like 5 Serenities, and then a bunch of ships that people design themselves. Some people have Khan's ships. Some people have. There's a bunch of Star Destroyers. There's like 3 Death Stars. That's when you join my fleet, you're allowed to imagine what kind of ship you have and talk to me about that a little bit. It's something I do, and it's fun time when I hang out with my subs and I have more time for chat.
I will
So is
need to
that your
come up
ship?
with a
Is it the
clever ship.
Falcon? It seems it's not the Falcon.
No, I'm in the Falcon. This is the Falcon.
Right, but that wouldn't be.
But I pointed the wrong way.
That being your ship.
I pointed the wrong direction in the Falcon, so that doesn't make it particularly effective.
Would you have the fire spray gunship? I mean, Living Wage 1.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I think hard
we
on
can't
the
say
ship
its
question.
name because it's a bad word. Isn't that
Important
great?
question.
you served for our freedom of speech, and we can't say that. We can't say the words here, right? It's crazy. On Rumble, I can, but on here we can't.
On
We
Rumble, you
shouldn't. We
can.
can't
Here,
say.
you and I will
We
end up
can't.
in the
We
abyss.
have to call it living wage one. So I guess are
I
we
hate
signing
that
off?
so much. Yeah, we do need to roll. I have
Thank you
commitments
for
I
doing
need
this
to
with
get
me. I
to.
really enjoyed it. And
No,
I'm glad I had you here. I'm going to take a look at some of these chats and get back to some people on any of the ideas you have. Some people are chiming in on midway. I'll look at your comments, I promise. And thank you, Roman. Good time, man.
yes, thank you, Admiral Teag. And there will be one of these in the future. I'll be on Thursday. I am doing Star Wars right now, so at 5 Pacific Standard on Ahsoka Episode 4. My panel and I try to be humorous and analytical, so you'll get a bit
Well,
of that. I got
Star
some good
Wars
industry
should
folks
be
on there too.
Star Wars should be fun too. I think I challenge you. Come up with like a 5 to 10 point Star Trek matrix of what Star Wars matrix of what makes it Star Wars
Your
and where you
matrix is
get
really
there.
solid. Like I said, it makes me feel bad about
I had
myself.
help from the best minds. And by the way, here's another little trick: count the executive producers, and if there's more than 3, which there are on Wrath of Khan, for every executive producer, the quality seems to go down. And I would say this: cross-reference your producers with Rings of Power and with New Trek, because it's all the same fucking people. It's a Ponzi scheme, my friend. All
It's a
right.
Ponzi
Well, we
scheme.
love you
And on that,
all. I'm going to say, I'm going to beam you up. And Roman, I don't know if you have anything that you like to say when you end these things, but you do have the self-destruct.
I do, and I
Computer
shall.
authorization Teague 1A destruct.
And on that, we will go. Everyone out there,